Hello, this is Ann O'Brien, intuitive teacher and author of A Woman's Guide to Conscious Love and Everyone is Psychic. And I'm speaking with you today about where, in particular, women get stuck in relationships with men and some simple fixes involving communication strategies that will take you from shutdown, disconnection, not having your needs met, to feeling connected and feeling like you're able to move forward, whatever that looks like. So what I'm about to share has worked for many of my clients and for myself, and it seems to keep coming up. And I know many of us right now are looking to become more conscious, not only in our relationships, but particularly around masculine energy and feminine energy, and what does that mean, and how do we find our healthy empowerment with each of these energies within ourselves, with other people, and their harmony, hopefully, between the two. I know this is a passion of mine, and it's something that's going to be a theme in my third book as well. So, simple premise of what I'm about to share here is that the masculine energy seeks to achieve. The masculine energy is about driving towards a goal, succeeding, accomplishing. No, that's not all masculine is. I'm not saying this is all men are all like this. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying masculine energy is, in part driving, succeeding, accomplishing, likes to do that, feels satisfied when, I'll just say, he can achieve something, can succeed at something. The feminine energy, on the other hand, likes to receive and is wired to receive. The feminine energy is also very creative. So it's a real misunderstanding, and I talk about this in my first book, in A Woman's Guide to Conscious Love, where the program socially, culturally, is that the feminine is passive and doesn't speak. That is actually not feminine energy. That is just a program. If you look to nature, if you look to the rivers, if you look to the wild feminine, it's very expressive. And so we, as women, or anyone expressing feminine energy, will naturally speak up. And that's a very, again, natural thing to do. So that's part of what I'm about to share here about how we can shift what we're doing in our relationships. So in our 3D relationships, it's masculines achieving, driving, succeeding, feminine receiving, creating. If you get into divine feminine and masculine, you might say that masculine is pure presence, the witness, the emptiness, the feminine being the something to his nothing, the feminine being love and creativity and the stuff of life. But I'm talking more on the 3D level. So on the 3D level, which is where most of us are, and definitely when we're in a relationship conflict, unless you go and do a lot of prayer and, sometimes you can bypass it all that way. But most of us, when we get into a relationship conflict or we're wanting something that we're not getting out of our relationships, we are operating on the 3D. So in this case, the man or whoever's in the masculine will feel unhappy if he can't achieve and succeed. So in the relationship, this could translate to, she's distracting me from my purpose. I can't deal with this. I don't want a relationship, or this is too much, or I'm busy. Or it could translate as, I can't win with her. Like everything I do to try to make her happy isn't working. And I'm not winning here, so I'm going to stop trying. I'm going to go away. It could look like I'm not enough for her. I can't win. I don't have what she wants. I can't give her what she needs. So all of these are typical masculine responses in relationship conflict. On the feminine side, the woman typically, or whoever's in the feminine, will feel unhappy if she can't receive. So our programming, both biologically in a female body and also culturally, is to take care of everybody else. So we tend to feel like we can't have our needs met in relationships. And it's rarely him that's causing that. It's more often that we're wired that way and we're operating in a pattern that's not fulfilling. And, it's not usually feeling that good for everybody else too, because you can feel when somebody's giving from empty, or they're giving because they should and they're resentful. And so many of us women have wounds around receiving. Many of us have felt that receiving is unsafe, and that could be anything from severe childhood trauma to you had a really rough breakup where you had really opened yourself to somebody and then it ended and you feel really vulnerable. So, anything in that spectrum. And then to counter that, there's been a movement of women that are so independent and have disowned their feminine and have disowned their need to receive. Like, never mind, it's not working. I'll just take care of myself. I'll just be alone. So instead of showing up in a way where we honor our need to receive, What a lot of women do is we'll withdraw or we'll complain or become passive aggressive, or what I see a lot, and I cannot tell you how many women I talk to that are so fed up with this, they're about to end a good relationship or they're avoiding a real relationship. So sometimes we think that's the only solution because this is so strong, this feeling like we can't have our needs met. And it's not that men don't want to meet a woman's needs either. I'm imagining I'm going to get some comments from men that also overgive, that are like, what about me? Because they've lost themselves in relationships too. Typically what I've seen over 20 years of doing this work professionally is the man will feel ungrounded if the woman is unhappy, and he's happy if she is. So that's that happy wife, happy life. I mean, there's a kind of psychic, spiritual, energetic thing that goes with that. So many women come to me who are dissatisfied and they say, he never, blah, blah, blah. He always, blah, blah, blah. And they complain about how unhappy they are with what he is or isn't doing. And I say, well, have you talked to him about this? And they usually say, oh, that doesn't work. So what does that mean? Usually that means either they're not talking or they're talking in a way that is a complaint or that sets him up to feel like he cannot win. So it's unlikely to work. And the feminine generally hasn't learned to speak up effectively. So what would we do? What are we doing that's working? What are we doing that's not working? So if you're in a very broad brushstroke, you never, you always, he's like, well, I can't win. You've already made up your mind. And even if he's open to trying to do something, he doesn't know what to do oftentimes. He does not want to be micromanaged or bossed around. But at the same time, we make a mistake when we're too wishy-washy, when we're too negative, and when we're too passive. So the antidote is for women to speak up, and ideally speaking up early before too much tension builds. And I know that's scary, but do you know how hard it is to speak up about something that's been going on for 6 months or a year or 5 or 10? It's way, way harder. And rarely does it come out good, because by that time, and I've been there, it comes out like an explosion, right? And that's the divine feminine too, right? With the divine feminine, as I see it, will accurately respond to whatever the environment provides or whatever's going on in her world. So speaking up early when things are light, when things are less of a big deal, will be a good idea. And that's even a phrase I've heard, John Gray, the author of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. I heard a video with him once that I love. I use this and I share this a lot. A simple thing you can say at the beginning of a request that you're making, particularly of a man, is, it's not a big deal, but blah, blah, blah. What could you please? And then as soon as, the man or anybody in that masculine role will hear it's not a big deal, it's like, okay, pressure's off. I'm listening. It's okay. I can be with this because it's light and it's approachable. So saying things early, and that sets you both up for success. So the other thing I'll say that has worked for many women and myself is to make simple, specific requests. And again, the earlier you do this, the more authentic this will be. Because if you've waited until he's never taken care of our child for 5 years, and then you try to get him to, that's going to be really hard. But at the beginning, and again, if you've been down a long road with somebody that things aren't working, you can still start with a specific request. And in this case, it might be a little fake it till you make it because you're really pent up. But if you start with one thing, so let's say instead of, you never watch the kids, I'm so frustrated, it's all on me, you say, could you watch the kids Tuesday night from 5 to 9? I have something I'd really love to do. It would make me so happy to be able to go. And then he's like, check, I can win at that. I know what she wants. It's something that I am clear about that I could do. And it's much more likely to get a successful outcome. The other example might be, let's say you're always distracted and you're on your phone. Like you're never present with me. That's your complaint or that's your chronic issue. So how about, would you be up for taking a walk together without our phones after dinner? It would be so good to unplug after such a busy day or week. And then he's like, oh, yeah, I could do an hour. I could do a half an hour. And then you're starting to get your need met. And he gets to experience what that feels like, both in terms of your happiness, in terms of your connection, in terms of maybe he really needs to get off his phone too, but you're not going to boss him around or become his mother and tell him that. So these are really simple ways. There's a funny story. When my daughter was about 3, and her dad and I were still together. We were all in the house, and there was something going on with me at the time, and I don't remember the specific thing, but I was processing something. There was something I was going through that I was struggling with, and I remember I had been trying to explain it to him for weeks, and he wasn't hearing me. I didn't feel understood. And then he was washing dishes, and my daughter and I were sitting at the kitchen table, and I told her in 3-year-old language, well, Mama's going through XYZ because da da da. And it was very, very simple, very bullet point. And he turned and his jaw dropped open. He's like, is that what's been going on with you? And I'm like, oh my God, like, yes. But I made it too complicated. So, the feminine energy is what it is. We make babies out of our bodies. And so we naturally are wired to make things complicated. And that's great when you're doing something that requires that, when that's appropriate for the situation. What I realized is I was giving him way too much information and, way too much elaboration that he got lost and he didn't know what to do. So it was really an eye-opener, and many of my clients have heard this story and laughed at this story. So, I just want to say too that I don't mean, because I'm sharing this for women, because most of my clients are women, I'm not saying it's all the women's job to fix the problems in a relationship. I'll also say that some relationships, this isn't going to work because the person's really incapable or the dynamics are really toxic. So, but I want to say for most of us with decent people in decent relationships, this will help. And I'll say too, there are definitely things men can do. And sometimes the man is going to be the more conscious one in the relationship. I've seen that quite a few times. Sometimes it's maybe they're both pretty conscious, but he's the one that's going to be more grounded in any given moment. So if so, he can be the one to check in with her, and she's kind of, and he can say, hey, I'm noticing, something seems off. Are you feeling X? Are you needing Y? What do you need? So just like she could meet him with what he needs and give him those bullet points and make it simple and achievable so he can win, he can give her what she needs, which is to receive her with love. And my candle just burnt out as I'm talking. So I think that's a truth. I had that yesterday with a client where I said something powerful and the candle went out. So he can listen. He can let go of the need to win at anything and just receive and just listen and love and acknowledge her when she speaks up, even when he doesn't like what she says, even when he can't help her in the moment. He doesn't have to help her at every moment. And when he does that, she's less likely to build up all that tension of unspoken stuff that's going to feel awful to everyone later. So he will win. It just might not be immediately apparent, and she'll definitely win. So this is a recipe to rekindle connection. This is a recipe to stop the epidemic of shutting down. I think this is so common in our day and age of so much technology and relationships, and people can feel so disposable. So it's really nice when we can lean into more connection and more real dialogue instead of that other trend that we're seeing. And yeah, some people act in hurtful ways. Some relationships do need to end for this reason. Sometimes we need boundaries, but in general, he is not causing her to not receive, and she does not cause him to not achieve. Both receiving and achieving are empowered choices. So my goal is to bring more consciousness to the ways that well-meaning people get stuck and how to fix it. So I'll add, this also works in pursuing a new relationship, or if you're entering a new relationship. And I see this a lot too, where, my clients that come to me, they're either in a relationship that they're struggling or frustrated with, or they're wanting a relationship, or they're dating. And some people ask me about other areas of life. Absolutely. But I see a lot of, especially women coming to me obsessing about this guy that they're dating or this guy they're interested in. And rather than obsessing and asking psychics and trying to figure out what he's thinking, ask him. Let him know that you want to get to know him better. Let him know that you feel a connection and see if he feels the same. That is so not easy, but way easier when it's new, and way harder if you've been dating him for a while and you don't know where this is going. Way harder if you've known him for a while and he's in your life and you're like, oh my God, the stakes are getting higher and I just can't speak up. And that's really hard because there's a missed opportunity. And even if it's a no, even if he's like, no, I'm not going down that road with you, it's like, okay, you're clear and you can move on to other things rather than being in limbo, being in this psychic, energetic limbo. If you found this helpful, please go to annobrianliving.com. There are a lot of great resources there. There's more videos also on my YouTube and on my Instagram and social media. It's at Ann O'Brien Living. On my website, you can learn about private sessions that I offer. You can find my books. They're also on Kindle, Audible, and paperback. A Woman's Guide to Conscious Love, Navigating the Play of Feminine and Masculine Energies in Your Relationships, as well as Everyone is Psychic. And you can join my mailing list. I would love it if you subscribe, share, like this video so it goes up in the algorithms and more people can see it. So thank you so much for tuning in. Have a beautiful day.